was a quiet night, just like any other. The kind of night where the air feels thick, the moon barely peeking through the dark clouds. But for Emma, this night was far from ordinary. Emma had just moved into her new apartment, a small one-bedroom on the edge of town. It was cozy enough, though there was something about it that felt off. The apartment had an age to it, the kind that made creaking noises at night. She hadn't thought much of it at first. After all, older buildings make strange noises, right? But over the next few days, Emma noticed something peculiar. At first, it was faint whispers at night coming from the walls. She thought it was just the wind or perhaps the pipes, but no. It was something different. These whispers weren't like anything she'd ever heard before. The voices, soft, almost unintelligible, seemed to call her name in a way that made her skin crawl. One evening, as she sat on her couch reading a book, the whispers started again, louder this time, not from one wall, but from all around her, like they were closing in. Emma could feel her heart begin to race, her breath catching in her throat. She stood up slowly, her legs shaky as she moved towards the source of the sound. The whispers were now almost word-frantic, desperate. She pressed her ear to the wall and could swear that for a moment the voices stopped. And then, just as she was about to pull away, she heard it, a single word, clear as day. Leave. Emma stepped back, heart pounding in her chest. She had to be imagining it, right? It was late. Exhaustion could make anyone hear things. But that word, it lingered in her mind, gnawing at her, refusing to leave. The next night, she tried to sleep. She tried to ignore the creeping sensation that something was watching her, but then the whispers returned, louder this time, angrier. She rushed to the door, her fingers trembling as she grabbed the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The door, her only escape, was stuck. She pulled harder, and the whispers grew louder, more frantic, like they were pushing against her. She turned back to the room, realizing that it wasn't just the walls anymore. It was the entire apartment, the ceiling, the floor, the air around her, thick with a cold, oppressive force. The walls were breathing slowly in and out, and with each breath the whispers grew louder. But then, just as Emma was about to scream, the whispers stopped. For a moment there was nothing, silence, an eerie, suffocating silence. Then a soft thud echoed through the apartment. Emma turned, her eyes wide, her breath shallow. From the corner of the room, where the shadows seemed to deepen unnaturally, something moved. It was a figure, tall, pale, and slender, with long, twitching fingers, its face unseeable, as though it had no face at all, just a dark void where a human face should have been. It moved closer. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't obey, her body frozen in terror. The figure reached out slowly, its fingers brushing against the wall beside her, and then, in a voice that sent chills down her spine, it whispered. Emma bolted. She shoved against the door again, this time with all her might, and it finally gave way. She rushed out into the hall, not daring to look back. She didn't stop running until she was outside, gasping for air, her heart threatening to burst from her chest. The next morning, Emma packed her things and left. She never spoke of what happened. No one would believe her anyway, but she never returned to that apartment. It's still there, standing in the corner of that quiet street, waiting for someone else to move in. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, you can still hear the whispers, faintly drifting through the walls. Leave.